Hello everybody and welcome to a very special top 5 board gaming video about my least favorite mechanics. Before I get started, if you haven't done so already, please take a look at all my various social media pages as well as my Patreon page. On all of those you'll be able to interact with myself and my channel in a whole bunch of really cool ways. So here's a couple of things. First off, what do I mean? Second off, why is it special? First and foremost, what does it mean? Mechanics I don't like? Pretty straightforward. These are board game mechanics that I just really do not enjoy. They rub me the wrong way. It makes me have a lot less fun in the game, takes me out of the immersion, all of that kind of stuff. It's something that I've talked about in the past, and I think I did a couple of videos on it as well, but my tastes in it have changed a little bit over time, and so I just sort of wanted to highlight some of those alterations and, more importantly, give some sort of like other side of the coin type of thing on this, which brings me to why this video is special. It's not just a top 5 video, I also wanted to get a little bit of a discussion. In addition to saying what the mechanics are that I really don't like, I also wanted to talk about what can we do to fix them? What have I seen that does something better about this type of mechanic or this way of presenting information or data or a way of playing the game or that type of thing? And so I just sort of wanted to get both sides of it. And of course, you guys know I always love to hear from you as well. So please put any and all of your thoughts into the comments below because you guys know I want to hear it all. What are your least favorite mechanics? How could they be fixed? What are games that do it well? All of that good stuff. But with that, we're going to get started right away with my number 5. At number 5, I've got uncontrolled sharing of information. This is so low on the list because it's honestly blocked by most rules, but the fact is that many people ignore it when it comes to co-op games such as Pandemic. What I mean when I talk about this is the idea that you guys need to coordinate your efforts. You've got to collect the correct tokens, or cards, or tiles, or whatever it happens to be, and combine them together and do the thing, whatever it is. In the case of Pandemic, you're trying to cure diseases, so you need to have X cards of a specific color. And the thing is that it drives me absolutely insane when people don't follow the rules with regard to what cards you have, how you can share them, all that kind of stuff. Most of the time when I play Pandemic, people are just like, oh yeah, just flip your cards face up. The problem that I have with this, and when people play it like that, is that it really makes it so that somebody can come in as an alpha gamer and essentially start dictating what people do. And that is when a game stops being fun for me, and I absolutely hate it. But like I said, it's so low on the list because honestly, most rules for co-op games have something that explicitly says you can only share this information, you can only do it in this specific way. And so I just think that we need to follow the rules on this particular one, where essentially we've got oversharing of information, my number 5. And number 4, I've got bad player elimination. Player elimination as a mechanic is not something that drives me insane. I actually kind of like it because it gives the game a sense of, not realism, but it gives a sense of having something at stake. And that's totally fine, and honestly it makes for some really, really good games. The problem is that there are a lot of games that do it very badly in that you can get eliminated within the first round or a couple of rounds, and then you're essentially sitting there with nothing to do while everybody else has like an hour of game left. It's exceedingly frustrating and it drives me insane every time it happens. One of the most common examples for this particular sin is Werewolf. Now this collection includes One Night, which does it in a great way, I might add, but the original Werewolf was actually horrible in this, or absolutely horrible with this, where you would have on the first night you could be dead and then you're out for the rest of the game. If you've got 20 or 30 people, you're not going anywhere for like 45 minutes or an hour if you want to try to play again. At least with One Night, the whole point is that it happens one time, everybody votes, and then you reset the entire game. It does it much, much better. The other example that I wanted to show you about good player elimination is this guy, Shadowhunters. This is a team-based cooperative game where the idea is you don't know who is on your team. The whole point is that you're trying to eliminate people who are not on your team, but you got to play through the game at least for several rounds so that you can gain enough information to really know what's going on. That said, that makes the assumption that the people you're playing with are playing in a reasonable way and not just arbitrarily and randomly stabbing everybody, which is another video. But that said, bad player elimination is my number 4. At number 3, I've got the judge effect. This is a sort of generalized mechanic that happens anytime you have somebody making a subjective call about who is winning or losing in something. Now, you'll see this most frequently in games like Cards Against Humanity, Apples to Apples, whatever it happens to be, wherever you have one person making a decision about this card is best, this one makes the most sense, whatever. And I cannot stand it. I'm totally fine with something like in Game of Thrones, where you have the Iron Throne, you control it, and then you can decide who wins and loses, who wins a bid, all of that kind of stuff. That is power that is granted to you by a separate game mechanic. In this particular case, the entirety of the mechanic is simply, that's how you play the game. And I just don't like it, because the problem is, especially if I'm playing with people that I don't really know, I don't know how they think, I don't know what they want, I don't know what they're looking for, I don't know what they're going to find grossly offensive in the case of Cards Against Humanity. It just makes me feel uncomfortable when I'm trying to play some of these games. And alternatively, we've also got something like Dixit. So this does something similar. It has a similar sort of judge effect to it, but it's actually lessened by the idea that other players are actually voting on which ones make the most sense, and you can still get points even if you're wrong. So it does a good job of mitigating the absolute control that a judge has and makes it a little bit more fun for everybody. And there are several games that do this in a good way. Another good example of that is like Wits and Wagers, where you're just sort of saying who's the closest without going Price is Right style. But with that, the judge effect as a whole is my number 3. At number 2, I've got the grind. What do I mean by this? Well, I mean typically in the mid to late game, especially of a lot of Euro games, you're just sort of grinding through trying to collect enough resources, collect enough tiles, cards, whatever it happens to be, or just trying to be good enough to move yourself into the late game. It gets tremendously boring and it's just a slog. It's absolutely horrible. And there's not a lot of games that do this really badly, but there are some that do it absolutely horribly. Notably, the one I want to talk about is Talisman. Talisman is a game that I used to really enjoy, but as I've gone on in years, I really can't stand it anymore. It's not a very well-designed game. I've heard the expansions help, but the slog of the mid-game with this, trying to get into the inner and then the further inner, I don't remember what the exact layers are, just drives me insane. I cannot stand it. I'm trying to get experience, I'm trying to level up my guy, get more magic, get more HP, get better items, and the problem is it's just so frustrating because everything is related to randomized card draws, and heaven forbid you roll wrong on a die and you lose everything or most of what you've gotten so far. It's absolutely brutal, and the thing is that most games mitigate this by adding specific cards during specific rounds, changing how things go round to round, having a limited number of rounds. Any number of ways can fix this, but there are some games that just refuse to. And so with that, the mid to late game slog and the grind is my number 2. At number 1, I've got roll to move mechanics, and by extension, anything that is related to a random thing is determining what you are going to do. So just to grind it out nicely, we've got Talisman. Talisman is a game where you have roll to move, and you know what? If you rolled a 6, you're moving 6. If you rolled a 3, sorry, you needed a 2, you gotta move 3. And it drives me batty. It absolutely does. And I don't understand why this game needed to be designed like that. There's another game that I've talked about that does this too, called Dexter. I don't know if it's around here. It was a while ago. But the thing is, it's ludicrous. It doesn't make any sense to have to do that or to have any sort of randomized event end up deciding the outcome of a game. There are lots and lots of examples of mitigating dice rolls, card draws, all of those kinds of things. Just off the top of my head, something I was thinking about earlier today, Illuminati does it in a great way because you roll 2 dice, and on top of that you can pay megabucks, or just bucks, I don't remember exactly what they're called. You pay money to essentially even the odds of what you're going to be doing. There's all sorts of different ways to do it, and Talisman, Dexter, a lot of these games just do it in such a bad way, but roll to move mechanics in particular just drive me insane because I'm like, oh, I need this roll, Oh, I failed. Now I have to go all the way around the entire board. Of course, Monopoly being the other really major one for this category. But with that, roll and move mechanics and by extension, randomized events as a whole, my number one. Well, everybody, I hope that you enjoyed this top 5 / discussion video about my least favorite board game mechanics. I've done stuff similar to this in the past, but I wanted to do it again, give a little update on it, and again, just see what you guys have to think about it. What are some of the mechanics that you really detest, and why do you not like them? My tastes have evolved over the years. Well, evolved, quote unquote. They've changed over the years. I wouldn't say it's any better, but at the same time, it's just different from what it was before. And I'm really curious what you guys have to say. What are the differences in your taste that you've seen? What are the mechanics that you now dislike? Or what are the mechanics that you've always disliked? Please let me know anything and everything in the comments below, because you guys know I love to hear from you. But with that, thank you very, very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.